Onda Magazine presenta.
Que Onda Houston, we're here today with Ruben Salazar, who is currently running for the Sunbelt Freshwater Supply District Board of Supervisors. How you doing,
Yes,
Ruben?
sir. Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. So I was looking at your Instagram for it, or for also your personal Instagram here, and so according to your Instagram, and correct me if I'm wrong on anything here, but you're the president of the East Aldine Civic Association, secretary of the Houston Stonewall Young Dems, precinct chair for Harris County Democratic Party, and again, as well, you're running for an office right now for the Sunbelt Water Valley Supply District
Yes.
Board.
Yes,
So I guess
sir.
that leads to my first question: is why do you have such an interest in public service?
Well, it kind of dates back to, my family's history of public service. My great-grandmother was very, very active in her community. Again, the same community I'm from, East Aldine. When she first moved here from a little small town called Clay, Texas, and when they first came here in the I want to say early 50s, she became a very, very involved person in her community, always helping out her neighbors, starting a local civic club in their neighborhood, and creating recreational programs for youth and single mothers in the area. So it's really just, and a few of her children even followed in the footsteps. So I guess you would say that it kind of runs in the blood a little bit. But really, I first started getting very active in the community. I want to say right outside of high school when I started my freshman year at UHD. I just started attending civic club meetings, attending commissioners court meetings, management district meetings, and just started seeing the way, our money is spent, our tax dollars are spent. And there were some things I didn't agree with, and I learned of the ways I could, make my voice heard on those decisions that are being made. And I just kind of took off from there, and then I started making the right connections, and started influencing some of the decisions that were being made at the board table. And yeah, ever since then I just kind of got a nick for it, and I've just been going full throttle ever since.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you mentioned you said or you started making like changes already. Like, what were some of the first changes you made? Where did you kind of start?
Sure. So I first got elected to the board of directors for the Green Forest Civic Club. That's a civic club that I was previously the president of. And one of my mentors, her name was Marina Flores Sugg, and she had been a longtime president of that organization, and basically guided me through a little bit, step by step. The people I needed to get to know, things I needed to start doing, the meetings I needed to start attending to. Um, and when I got on the board, I first started as assistant secretary, and then the following year I was elected president. And then she, again served as my vice president, and still kind of was showing me the ropes as I moved up the ladder. And we started initiatives that were aimed at improving some of the local infrastructure in East Alding, namely sidewalks, street lights, advocating for more patrol in our neighborhoods. And during the time I was president of that group, the district listened to our request for that, and they ended up um, installing a new night shift patrol of deputies. I think it was about a team of 5 or 6 deputies in the district. So again, we saw additional patrol, in our neighborhoods at that time. So, just learning who to talk to, how these decisions are made, um, getting feedback from residents, bringing that to board meetings, bringing that to committee meetings that we both attended, and that's how we kind of influenced the change in our community by saying, look, this is what some of the residents are concerned about. This is what they want to see in the community. They want to see more sidewalk enhancements. They want to see more streetlight enhancements. They want more deputies patrolling their neighborhoods, and bringing, whether it was surveys, videos that residents made, posting them to social media and saying, like, this is what we need. That's how we were able to drive some of the changes that we were able to bring to the community.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Yeah, as someone who lives in a neighborhood without sidewalks, sidewalks are
Mhm.
very important.
Exactly, exactly. And our community has seen several students hit and killed on their way to school.
Oh my gosh.
It's happened, since I was in elementary school, all the way up to my junior year. This young man that I did know in MacArthur High School, my high school where I graduated from, he was hit and killed walking to school in the morning, around 6 in the morning, and it was just a terrible tragedy. Um, and I just remember that, those incidents where, seeing my fellow classmates getting hit and killed on the way to school.
Yeah.
That just, it just angered me.
Hmm.
And when I finally had the chance to make change and to bring change to the community, I did it with all that in mind. Knowing that these are some of the issues that we were facing, and these, there was real families behind, these issues that were hurting from some of the, tragedies that happened as a result of us not having accessible streets, or safe pathways to schools. Yeah, so that's what kind of, also brought me to bring these initiatives forward.
I like that. I like that. So you talk a bit there about like sidewalks and lights and things, but you're running for right now. You've moved on to Sunbelt Freshwater Supply District. Why did you want to move into this position? Why are you trying to run for this board?
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen, I've spoken to residents before I decided to run. I did some block walking. I did talk to a few residents, community leaders, with their experience with the Sunbelt district, and the vast majority of our residents and community leaders were very dissatisfied with the service that we are provided from the water district. I know I've had my own share of you know, uh, not so positive interactions with them, whether it comes to billing, whether it comes to the water quality itself. Residents said the quality of the water is very bad. It's gotten worse. The smell of the water, in certain instances when we use our hot water, it's still happening to this day. It's a very, very bad smell with the water. Residents have called the district office and they haven't, they get the runaround, when they do call the office. I feel that some of the board directors, as well as, the staff overall, isn't very receptive to the community and doesn't really make a lot of the decisions on that they do with community in mind. So that's why my goal is, to really, really bring community-minded leadership to the district. And when, we make these board decisions at the boardroom, at the board table, we're making them solely with residents in mind. There's going to be people that are, living at these homes and working at these businesses that, get our water service and our sewer service. And I think, those decisions that we make, whether, they be positive or negative, are going to affect those residents. So we should be making these decisions solely with the residents in mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when I ask this next question, I don't want this to turn to you like attacking or bashing the current board. So if you don't
Mhm.
want to answer it, you want to reframe the question in some way, please feel free to do so. But you kind of just said that the current board they don't listen, they get people to run around. How do you plan to like challenge that or change that, and why do you think they don't listen to the community?
Yeah, so I'll answer the second part first.
Sure.
I, I would say that they might not be as receptive to the community because they aren't as involved in the
Mm-hmm.
community. When do serve on boards and you are a board member of whatever it may be, I always think you should be very involved in that community, whether it's throughout the district area that you serve, whether it's a county-wide board or just a small district area. I think you need to be very, very involved and you have to talk with the people that you're serving in order to better know their needs, and what issues that they're facing. And the things that I think I can bring forward and that I think I can change is dates back to the last few years that I've had with community leadership experience. Being president of the newly formed East Aldian Civic Association. Leading Green Forest Civic Club. Serving with the Houston Stonewall Democrats, and then really just being closely involved with the East Audi Management District that does a lot of work with the Sunbelt Freshwater Supply District. Working in the community, being in touch with residents, listening to their concerns and trying to find solutions to their concerns and not just saying, oh, well, you know, there's nothing we can do. We'll look into it and we'll give you a call back and they're just not hearing from them again. That's not the way you're supposed to, work things. The way that I work is that I, try to find, solutions to the issues that residents are having. And I don't go out and promise the world to them. I don't go out and say, I'm gonna fix all your problems. I'm gonna, become the Superman of this community and champion all the issues because I can't do that alone. I wish I could, but I simply can't, and I'm not going to lie and tell residents that I'm going to do that. But I do tell them that I'm going to do the best that I can and only advocate for them, with their best interests at heart. And I think, again, my community leadership experience is what's going to make me stand out on this board, and it's going to make me the best qualified candidate for this office.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So my next question here is a bit so as we kind of just discussed this a bit before the meeting, and as we see, there's a lot of conflict in local, state, national government. You and I were both when we were both at UHD, we both ran into conflict with our student government association. How do you plan to challenge conflict or disagreements with the board, with other positions you may hold in the future?
Yeah, it's I think it's all about compromise. Edward, I think it's when I've been again, I serve on several boards already, and we have had our share of disagreements. But I think, there comes a time where you have to put your own personal opinions aside and you have to really, really look at the decisions that you're going to make and say, how is this going to affect, the overall community? Um, so the way that I examine and handle conflict is I just lay all the options out on the table, and I try to make the best decision, and support the best decision that's gonna, try to help the residents the most, or at least cause, the least inconvenience. Again, we serve at, the pleasure of the community. We're elected to these positions to serve only the community and the people that we do serve. So I try to just simply make the best decision that I think is possible and the one that's going to best benefit the community. And that's really how I handle anything, whether it was in student government, and as you recall, we've had experience there together. Or in any other board that I serve. I just try to play all my cards right and put everything out on the table and simply look at what decision is going to be in the best interest of the community. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you've kind of already answered this one, but I want to just kind of reiterate this question here, or get a reiterated answer to this question. But in your campaign stuff, you talk a lot about transparency. So is transparency to you? Is that what are they called? Town halls, Instagram polls, social media Q&As. What does transparency look like to you?
so to me, transparency really, really looks like allowing residents a voice at the table, allowing them to be heard. I know at our work with the Civic Association and the Management District, we really, really try to get residents out to voice their concerns in person at these board meetings, at town halls, that we have co-hosted with the state senator, state rep, at all kinds of meetings. I try to really get push residents to attend meetings in person because I think that's the best way to be transparent with having residents present at these meetings to understand, hey, we're going to raise, the price of this. We're going to raise your water rate. We're going to raise, the amount you know, uh, certain chemicals that are in your water. I think those are decisions that should be made with residents present. And I think residents should be aware when changes are going to be made to their delivery of services, not just through a written notice in the mail that you're required to do. So transparency to me means allowing residents to voice their concerns openly and freely, without any kind of, fear of retribution or anything like that. Yeah, but that's what transparency looks like to me, basically allowing residents to uh, uh, to be present, to ask questions, not to, be, fearful of, what you're going to say or do, in retaliation to their concerns or questions. So yeah.
That's awesome. And so this next one, kind of in that vein, it's something I saw you talk about or post about a night or two ago.
Mhm.
But the I-45 expansion. I know
Mhm.
you've posted that it's gonna dehome a lot of people in your subdivision, your district.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I know you'd said too, kind of like that people came and listened, or people came and expressed concerns, but it was just kind of like it was just a requirement. What are your thoughts on the I-45 expansion?
Yeah, so on the I-45 expansion, I'm very, very dissatisfied with the entire thing overall. I understand that uh, eventually the project will move forward. That's inevitable. We all know that
Yeah,
because it's been in the works for the last 20 years. And with the amount of population boom that we have been seeing, um, we are eventually going to need larger avenues for us to navigate. However, I just am very dissatisfied with the amount of homes that are being displaced, the amount of businesses, and the fact that they are densely and mostly in communities of color. And you and I both know that the near north side is a majority Hispanic neighborhood, and it's basically the hub of the Hispanic culture, along with the East End, here in Houston. And I grew up on the north side, have family that still live there. And I think this project is going to be very detrimental not only to the overall to the communities themselves, but to the entire Hispanic culture in here in Houston. I think these public hearings and meetings that were held by TxDOT were just a way to get, a rubber stamp on their plan to move this project forward, this with their plan. We've seen that with concrete batch plants that we have here in East Aldine that we've held public hearings for, at the request of the state rep and the senator. However, it really all these concerns that residents bring forward and things like that, they usually go in through one ear and out the other. Only one time where it was our community successful in stopping one of these batch plants from coming into the community. So we, had a public hearing, and residents, one after another kept giving public comments and concerns directly to TCEQ along with the owners present there at the meeting. And I think eventually halfway through the meeting, the owners of the proposed plant, eventually, I guess got a little nervous and withdrew their permit application
oh, interesting.
for that plant. So that was a big win for the community. But it's not always been like that. We haven't always had those wins. With TCEQ, we get told a lot that they don't have the jurisdiction to control whether it's going to be within such close proximity to a school or a neighborhood or whatnot, or a newly revitalized $1 million park, James Driver Park, that Precinct 2 just revitalized a couple years ago, and that's now might have a brand new concrete batch plant moving right next door. So it's things like that that just really, really, it just sucks. But again, it's just the things you have to go through and endure in communities where there's no zoning. But going back to the I-45 expansion, I'm completely dissatisfied with the way it's going. And I'm hoping that the federal government, along with Harris County, will try to find sustainable solutions and will compensate these residents and business owners fairly when it comes time to relocating them. So
Absolutely. So a lot of your kind of answers here kind of parlay to this idea that like watching who we vote into office. A lot of this stems back to we're not voting the right people into office.
yeah.
And so as also we're coming up on this November is a national election. What would
Mhm.
you say for young or first time voters? Why should people vote in any local, state, national? Why is voting important?
I would say voting is important because, I mean, as we've seen, whether it's at the local, state, I wouldn't say so much the federal, but really local and state, maybe yeah, even federal level, numbers matter. These elections can come into such close proximity where, a difference of 50, 25 votes can make a real difference. And I think it's really important for young people, or really anybody, to have a voice at the table at who's going to be representing them. We saw, a very divisive race for district attorney here in Harris County. That was it was highly contested. It was highly watched by everyone here in Harris County. But you saw, our incumbent DA that has been there for what, two terms, was vying for a third, was just defeated very harshly in the polls, during the primary. So as you can see, residents and people coming out, making it a point out to vote, it really does have an impact, and it really does shape, who's going to sit in that office. So I think it's really, really important for people to learn about what candidates stand for, including myself, what these candidates stand for, what they plan to do, and how they're going to advocate for their constituents' best interests at heart. Um, but I think the main point and the main reason people should go out to vote is just because that's really, for the vast majority of us, that's really going to be our only time that we have a say so in government, is at the ballot box. A lot of people don't have time to go and attend public meetings because of work, family, whatever. But on election day, you have the power to uh, make your voice heard at the ballot box by deciding who's going to be in that seat at that board meeting, at the board table, who's going to be in that seat on commissioner's court, whatever, what have you. So I think that's why it's really, really important to get out the vote, no matter who you are.
Okay, so going back to back to the beginning of this interview, or actually before the interview, you'd mentioned that you'd had some offers from state reps and different people. Do you have any aspirations for a higher office? Or are we going to be voting you into mayor in the next 20 years?
I mean, you never know, right? I mean, they say never say never. So,
Absolutely.
I just really and truly want to represent my constituents the best way that I can. Whether it's at Sunbelt, or just, being president of the Civic Association, or state rep, or senator, or what have you, or governor, who knows? I mean, I don't think you can go into politics, saying, okay, I want to do this job. I think you just got to go in with an open mind and say, how can I best serve, my fellow man, my constituents. I think that's the kind of attitude you need when you go into politics, not say, oh, I want to be senator, I want to be governor. I think you can have aspirations, but I don't think you need to just solely let that be your driving direction into politics. So, I mean, my answer to that is, we'll see. I mean, if an opportunity presents itself and it's the right time, maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll just have to see.
Understandable, understandable. So as of right now, you've been at this for about maybe 10 years, a little more than that. What would you say so far is your biggest accomplishment?
I would say the biggest accomplishment, the one I'm really, really proud of, is our efforts that have, taken effect and have been able to obtain some new street lighting here in East Aldine. Again, this dates back, this project, when I was with Green Forest Civic Club, and I was president at the time, and we had a lot of residents complaining how dark it was, and we decided to start this little project that we called Light Up East Aldine. And it was a project in which we would go out and create videos at night, me along with our VP and our I believe it was our nuisance abatement chairperson. And we went out into the neighborhoods and made videos, of how dark it was, how dangerous it was to be walking along the street at night, and how residents felt very unsafe, and just, highlighted some of the concerns that our residents have brought forward. And, you know, we brought that back to the districts. to their attention, and we even, I know I even went out block walking here in my neighborhood and our neighboring subdivisions here, and got signatures from residents on petitions to request more street lighting from the district and request them to install brand new street lights in the neighborhood. And they were receptive toward it. They are now installing, I want to say, upwards from 250 to 350 new streetlights every year, and they're going to continue to do that up until the entire district is lit up. Lighting up East Alding has become one of their biggest initiatives going forward within the next 10 years, and I believe we're on track to light up all of East Alding within the next 3 to 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I would say our efforts that paid off to get streetlights, that has been the biggest accomplishment that I'm so proud of, because it's really brought a lot of peace of mind to district residents, especially to the parents of young students who have to walk to school. So I would say that would be one of my most prideful accomplishments so far.
That's awesome. That's a really good accomplishment too.
Thank you.
We had lights installed out here like 5 years ago, and it
Hmm.
makes such a difference.
It does.
Especially
It
as I
does.
live out here like north of Kingwood, it's all woods, so at
Hmm.
night it's almost pitch black.
Yeah,
So
and
it is absolutely not safe.
yeah, at all. And
So I
I think
absolutely
it,
understand that.
yeah, and it's so crazy how we live in, suburban areas,
Hmm.
but we don't have those suburban amenities,
Right?
that a
Yeah.
lot of others do.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Kind of in the opposite of that, has so far in your career, has there been any kind of moment where you kind of look back, maybe I should have done this better, maybe I could have gone about this topic differently, or this movement differently?
I would say, let's see. There's I think in life you're faced with a lot of decisions that you have to make. Some of them are very difficult. Um, I don't think that there's anything that I've done in my community advocacy work that I regret. And I say that very strongly because all the decisions that I've made, have gotten me to where I am now. Whether they have gotten, positive or negative reactions, to me is a little irrelevant because um, the point that we've gotten our community to now, and the point that I've been able to get myself to now, has all been of a accumulated from all the decisions. So I don't think I would have handled any of the decisions that I've made differently. I think I've made them all with the best, with the best interests of of my community at heart. So I don't have too many or really any regrets, so far when it comes to my community work. So
That's good. That's good.
yeah.
Kind of back to the premise of this original interview was, you're running for Sunbelt Freshwater Supply District. Um,
Hmm.
so I guess kind of in as simply as you can, or as concisely as you can put it,
Hmm.
what do you plan to do if you get elected? What are your kind of first few goals out the gate?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, again, like we talked in the interview in the beginning, it's to bring more transparency to the board. Have any policies that we do create or looking at creating be solely with the community in mind. So transparency, community-driven policies, and really just having a open door to residents to allow them to express their concerns to us and to bring any project ideas, that they have for the community forward. I know the district is limited on funding. Some water districts charge property tax. Sunbelt isn't able to, or at least right now, doesn't charge property tax, from residents. Therefore, they have limited funding and they're very limited in the amount of work they can do. However, they do have the ability to, create community service projects such as installing streetlights and sidewalks and things like that. They have the ability to do that. Um, to my knowledge, they haven't done that before. But I would like to see the district step up to, serve in more ways than just, being a water and wastewater service provider to the community. I would like to see them, be a provider of, infrastructure improvements in the area, especially where we need it most. in the district. So infrastructure improvements, community enhancements projects, transparency, and community-driven policies is what I'm going to focus on with my time on the board.
Awesome, awesome. Is there any last words, any last things you'd like to say?
I hope to earn your vote this election, and yeah, I really really appreciate all the support that I've gotten from all the elected officials and all the residents, not only in my district, inside and outside the district. I've gotten lot of positive reactions from again community leaders and elected officials, and I'm very very grateful for all their support.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ruben, for showing up for this interview. Thank you, everyone, for watching. For more long-form interviews like this, stay tuned to Que Onda Magazine's YouTube channel. And for any and all news Houston, follow Que Onda Magazine on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Take care, everyone.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben.
Que Onda Magazine presentó